Hey guys, this is Hannah, and I have another video for you today. I am doing a picture of my brother's wedding, the tea ceremony part. So here I am showing the picture that I'm doing. It's me, my sister-in-law, and her father. And I'm looking through, I'm getting these envelopes out because I knew I had them. I had them left over from the wedding, and that's the card from the invitations. So I'm just looking to see what the background paper is going to be, and I decided on that paper, the flower paper, and that is from My Mind's Eye, the Sweetest Thing collection. I'm not sure what the paper is actually called. So I also back it on just a plain cards, like a craft card stock. And I'm going to be using that other paper. It's like a bamboo-y type of look, and I just sprayed some of my mists on it. I was just playing around and I had some leftover mist, so I just like splotched it on. So I kind of liked that it had a little bit of something on it to take away. So I'm just trimming. I don't use a sketch or anything for this, but I do kind of have the idea that I want to do like an L type of a layout. And I also, when I start it, think that I want to use some like triangle type elements. So here I'm just figuring out where I want the paper, how I want the paper. So I'm edging it with the inker and a dry chalk inker called Old Road. So it's like a gray color. I also later on decide to edge some stuff in my Cold Foot Stemons color, which is like a yellowy color. I don't do everything in that, and I kind of use a little bit of the gray too. So I had used my pencil to kind of mark where I wanted it, just because there wasn't a lot of extra space. So here I'm looking through some of papers that I had scraps left over from that collection, and some papers that I had used with that collection, because for my brother's wedding, I actually made an album for them, and so I used the colors that they had for their wedding, which is a pale yellow and like a navy blue. So I took different variations of blue and yellow, and I kind of mixed it with some other colors. But the collection from My Mind's Eye, The Sweetest Thing, had a lot of blues and some yellow colors. So I believe that yellow paper is from Maggie Holmes, though. The ones that I'm cutting the triangles out of. I do use some other paper from My Mind's Eye, from that collection, The Sweetest Thing collection. It's the Bluebell line. So here I'm inking that up. And as you can see, I did a larger triangle and then a smaller one over top. I was just kind of playing around with this, and since I didn't go with a sketch or anything, I'm just kind of winging it. Sometimes I like to do that, and I found that the longer I've been scrapbooking, which hasn't been that long, I've only been scrapbooking since February, but since I've been doing it, the past maybe 2 or 3 months has been when I've been able to do the most of just winging it. For a long time I just used sketches because I just had no idea. So here's the invitation card. Later I do kind of cover up the address because I realize the address is on it, so hopefully you guys can't see it too good. I know when I put it on the big screen it was kind of blurry, but I do cover it up just to protect where they had the tea ceremony and stuff like that. So anyway, I figured people would appreciate that. But so that red envelope is actually the envelope, some of the leftover envelopes that we had from the tea ceremony itself, and I didn't buy them, so I didn't get to go into the shop to see what other Asian goodies there could be to use as paper products, but I really fell in love with those red and gold, and so I do use the red and the gold as different, you know, aspects to just give a little punch of color, since it is way different than the blue and the yellow. But I think I was able to do it pretty well. So here's that yellowy paper. It's like a darker, like mustard yellow. I believe I'm looking for something. Oh, my yellow. I do end up, that's when I get the yellow out, when I'm using it on the bamboo. I have my thing, a lot of my stuff in like a drawer right next to my desk. So sometimes I reach over and that's what I'm getting. So I'm just kind of playing around with how I want things to go. And I do cover up a lot of the envelopes. You know, I really don't want much of it to be showing. This is where I realized that, oh yeah, I have the address from where they did the tea ceremony. And I just didn't really feel that that was something that should be on there. So, but yeah, that paper, flower paper right up at the top, that's from The Sweetest Thing from my Mind's Eye collection. And it goes really well with the flower, the background flower paper. So, which is why I decided to use it. I don't necessarily, the color is a lot more mustardy than the color that she had in her wedding, but I kind of liked the idea of using different variations of the blues and of the yellows. So I also wanted to add a darker aspect because the lighting in where they had the tea ceremony wasn't that great. And so, and since my sister-in-law was wearing a bright red outfit with lots of intricate design, I wish I could have thought to take a picture of just like part of it. But so I use that Simple Stories cutout type of die cut card that says hello, and I put, as you see me, I used my yellow chalk inker and I just wiped it on. I used a basic scrap of like grid paper from The Sweetest Thing. It's just a scrap that I had. So I thought that wood grain did go really well with the other colors, just to keep it a little neutral for the light color. So here I'm looking through some of the Chamel papers that I had. I knew she had a couple of colors that were like yellowy and stuff like that. So I wanted to see if there was anything that I could use for journaling or just to layer. And so, you know, here I decide that I'm going to use a punch to add some of that color, and that is just like a weave type of color, that yellow, that flower, the one that I use the flower punch. And so here I decide to stick with that ampersand paper, but I will cover up the ampersand. I don't end up keeping that there. I don't really think that the ampersand goes at all with what I was trying to do on the page. So I'm just, oh yeah, I decide to use pop dots for that flower up at the top. And that's just a basic punch that I had gotten not too long ago. So I kind of like it just to have like a circle-y aspect, because it is nice to add circles, especially since I'm doing such a linear, you know, like that L design, sort of. It doesn't look like it's an L yet, but I promise it will look more like one. Here I have a whole bunch of vellum pieces left over from the Oh Darling crepe paper collection it was from the Scraptastic Kit Club a few months ago. And I still have tons of vellum pieces. I'm not a big fan of those vellum pieces. They're really, really cute, but I've been finding them really hard to use. And maybe it's because some of the time you can see a lot of what you use to put it down with. And so I know on my paper, I use for that doily, I use the gun, which I cover most of it up so you can't see it. And the one up at the top that I put that says adorable, I used the Tombow. And that you can't see. I know the Tombow, that one's not as bad, but I forgot about, I used some of it near the end for some hearts, and I used the glue dots, and I forgot that you can see those glue dots. So that kind of annoyed me after I realized. I was like, man. But so I really want to use this paper with the different like circly, they're almost spirography. Here I'm trying to figure out, I want to use this darker blue strip, and that's from The Sweetest Thing too. And I'm just trying to figure out where I want to use it. I end up finding a place for it, not any of the places that I tried this time. But I just kind of keep playing around with it. I had a hard time at first, and it took me, I sat down about 3 different times with this, which I think is why this is a little bit longer of a video. I just, for whatever reason, I was just having a hard time. I don't know. Maybe it's just the craziness of, I started this, what was it, on the weekend? So maybe it was just a craziness of like starting school up and being busy, and so my brain isn't all thinking, I can't think all the time about scrapping, which is something I do like to do like during the day. If I'm busy doing like housework or something, I'll think about a layout that I'm working on, and I just didn't have a chance to do that too much. So I find that sometimes those little distractions do kind of take away and make it a little bit harder to just scrap and get something. So I play around with how I want, because there's this, one of the lines has that darker color blue, and I really want that to show. So I'm just like, oh. So here I'm not sure, so I'm cutting out one of the spirography type of things. I think, I wonder if maybe I can use that as a circly element. So here I just go, okay, heck with it, I'm just gonna put this sucker down. I think that was part of my problem, is I just didn't stick with. So here, this paper is from Studio Calco's That Away collection. I think it's Studio Calco, and it has a geotag with a heart, and I really liked that aspect, and I kind of wanted it to show, but in the end I thought that that was kind of distracting, because it wasn't where the picture was, and it wasn't like it was a picture of my brother and his new wife, and so in the end I do end up covering it, but I do like the arrow part, and I like the gray neutral part. So here I have a piece of Maggie Holmes wood grain from the original collection. It's just a leftover strip that I had, and I'm like, where can I stick it to, because I knew I had that top part with the wood, and so I kind of wanted more wood. So here I decided to take a piece of Maggie Holmes. It's like a dark blue, like denim-y with dots, and so I decide to stamp that out, and I use that, and then that's when I get the idea of, oh, maybe I'll anchor. So I use glue dots to put that down. So I think, oh, I can use this to anchor my title, because at this point I didn't know where my title is, and sometimes I like to have an idea of where I want my title. Sometimes I don't know. So, I mean, obviously if you use a sketch, sometimes that gives you a good idea. Although a lot of times when I use sketches, I don't put the title down where they have the title, just because I find a better place, just because I change the sketch around. But here I really thought that that would work good. So these red sticker letters are from Simple Stories, and that's from the Goodbye Sunshine, and whatever they used, the dye that they used, it took forever for me to get those stickers off. I think that's probably part of the reason why it took me so long, and because the dye didn't cut through the letters all the way, some of them peeled up halfway, and so I have to use a lot of glue, which it was kind of messy. But I really, really liked that red. It really matched with the envelopes perfectly, so I was determined to use it, but it was a pain. And at one point, I know I'd think about not using those and using another one, but I couldn't get another shade to match that same color. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna use it. Of course, I wish I had thought to put the the Y down first at the end of ceremony, since I titled it Tea Ceremony, because that goes on the blue flower a little bit. But in the end, I don't mind that it does that, because it kind of brings your eye more in towards the picture. But if I thought about it, I would have put that down first, so that I would have had a little bit more space, but not so much of it on the flower. But that's okay. I didn't mind that, but yeah. So this was after the ceremony, and so of course, we had all eaten, because there was like a whole bunch of Asian food things that were amazing. Just like some flour. I don't know. I took a couple pictures. I don't know if I'll scrap them, but there were these gelatin flour pieces, and they were gorgeous. I mean, you almost didn't want to eat them. They were so pretty. But the food was so good. And of course we were really hungry, because us girls didn't get a chance to eat before, which is not a good thing when the bride doesn't get to eat. But we tried to get her food, and it just didn't work.
Mom,
so you need to go to bed, please.
Are we allowed to go to the commissary of the pizza by ourselves?
No. You can't go to the store by yourself. Please go to bed. Sorry, that was my daughter. They're supposed to be sleeping, but of course they hear me talking, so they want to come and see what I'm doing. It's pretty late here in Hawaii, and they should be sleeping, but they like to stay up late, just like their mom. So here I finally find a place for that. So I don't know what I was talking about. Oh yeah, about getting food. That's okay. You don't really need to know about that. Just thought a little backstory would be fun. Anywho, since we got totally distracted, I did at least. Sorry about that, guys. So I thought that this was a perfect place to just put that underneath. Of course, I had the hardest time because I used the ATG on it, just because it was just a long enough strip and sticking it under to get it to be straight. So I know it's not completely straight, which kind of bugged me. And sometimes that stuff doesn't, and it did, but I just couldn't. I was not going to fiddle with it for 10 minutes. So here I'm looking through some like cut pieces that I have done, that I cut them out, or I used a punch and I made some pieces like some banners and some stuff like that. And I'm just looking through. I knew I had a couple of different papers that I had used from a different kit. So I think I'm looking for something else. I forget. I don't know what I'm looking for. Oh, I decided I'm going to punch out another of that weavy paper from the Chamel line for a circle. Just kind of trying to fill in, layer. At this point, I'm not really super happy with how it's looking, but sometimes you just got to go with it and see where it leads. So that's what I'm doing. I know. In the end, I don't mind it, I guess. So I think, like I said, just not having a chance to sit down all at one time made it a lot harder to do this layout. So, but I did want to show it, because sometimes I think it's good to show layouts that you do it and it's harder, but in the end it still turns out good. And here's the thing, is someone who's looking through my album isn't going to know that that's not my favorite layout, and really it does go, it matches with a lot of some of the other stuff, that layered look that I do a lot. And so it's like someone who's looking through my album might not notice that, that's not my favorite one. And in the end, that doesn't really matter, because sometimes I found that a layout that I didn't like when I first did, I end up liking later on, just because your style changes, the way that you do things changes, the way you look at layouts change. So, so I layer 3 circles in there, and that top circle, that blue one, was a paper that I had used in there. The album that I did for my brother and my sister-in-law, so as their wedding gift. It was just this really, really nice blue and white like a dark blue. I had the hardest time finding colors for their wedding colors, just because they weren't colors that everybody uses. That's not popular these last year or so. So here I'm looking for something to do some journaling on or to add. And I remembered I had these Bow Bunny noteworthy, like Asian themed type sticker or like papers. And so I decided I'm gonna cut it, and the only thing I wished is that I'd lined that up maybe a little bit more with the with where underneath where my title was, but I didn't want it to hit underneath my title because I didn't want to bring up the letters since I glued them down. So in the end, because of the way I layered some other stuff, like I ended up putting that brad there, and that circle brad that I keep moving around, that actually is from Mind's Eye, The Sweetest Thing. It's from that collection, so it matches really well. So it's like I did try to do a little matching. This is a banner that was like, it's more neon color than some of the other stuff, but I thought that worked really well right there, just kind of covering, not having all that empty space up. Sorry about that squeaking. My cat is getting into stuff. She likes to go in my cupboard that's near my bed. So here I use a sticker that matches that color from the date banner, the tag, and that also is from Capture Life. So here I'm just looking through some of the stickers that I had up near the top of my stickers. I have a drawer that has like all like those bigger sticker papers. I really just need to go through them and just put like a whole bunch on a layout because I have so many, and either that or I should just give them to my kids. They would love that. So there's a sticker that says Saturday, and it was bright red, so I thought that was another little element to just add that pop. So here I decide to add my brads finally. I had actually taken those out like near the beginning. So I like to back mine with washi tape on the back so it doesn't snag. I mean, I could have just, glued them on or cut the brad part off, but I don't mind it going through the paper. It actually in some ways enforces your paper. Like if for some reason it did happen to not be glued down that great, because I know some of these, because I knew I was layering, I didn't put as much tape as I normally do. So here I put that bigger circle-y one, and that's just like gray, and it matches, like I said. I did use one brad from Simple Stories, I believe, the yellow one. So here I'm cutting it up, and I know I'm almost done. I'm just about, I forgot I put that Maggie Holmes bow on there. That was from the original collection, and that was like a gray color, and so it kind of ties in with the arrow paper, which is a darker gray, and just kind of trying to bring in some of those things. I'm looking for stuff. I keep some of my brads and my like gems, and like if I have enamel dots and stuff like that right there, and I keep my pens there. So I had some navy blue just like pearl dots there, and I've remembered that I had a couple gold hearts in the Chamel paper stickers. So I added those because since there was the gold on those envelopes from the tea ceremony. And so I wrote in that first little spot, and then I decided to write up in that corner because I had just a little bit more that I wanted to say. And so it took me a long time to get that journaling. I like to do my journaling like not at the end all the time, just because it helps you flow. But I didn't really know exactly what I wanted to say. But pretty much in it, I just said that it was nice that we could take two different cultures and merge them, and that, his family was really good about involving us in this process. So it was just a great experience. So here are some close-ups And I hope you guys enjoy, and I know this was a little bit longer of a video. I like to keep it under 20 minutes. But I hope you guys enjoyed, and until next time, I hope you guys have an inspired week. Bye!